Thank you again. Thank you, everybody. So I hope you're enjoying the conference. Are you enjoying the conference? Yes? Okay, cool. Yeah, because we just had a very great talk from Christoph. But I don't know if it happens the same to you. For me, it's like it's been 2 very intense days. We are very close to the end. And I get a bit stressed when I'm absorbing so much knowledge. So if you don't mind, just bear with me. It'll be just less than a minute. Let's make some exercise to relax, okay? So just please try to relax your head. Go with me, just your shoulders, your hands, okay? Just like this. And we are going to make a very, very simple exercise, just an energizing exercise to increase the feeling of community, okay? It's very simple. We just have to clap very slowly at first, then louder and louder, and we are going to say a keyword all together. Anything will do. I don't know. Do you have any suggestions? Fable, okay, Fable. Let's say Fable, okay. So we start clapping together very quietly at first, and then slowly, little by little, louder and louder, okay? Fable, Fable, Fable. Oh, everybody together. Fable, Fable, Fable. You have to say that. Fable, 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 Fable. Stop. Okay, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling really well right now. Okay, so let's start. So let's talk. Whoops. I need to press the play button. Okay, so Fable got a new major release, and you won't believe what happened next. Fable 2, let's talk about that. First, very quickly, who am I? I'm Alfonso Garcia-Caro. I have a degree in linguistics. This is basically my disclaimer if I say any silly thing, which I will do. But in my short experience as a developer, I have experience in several sectors, like video games, green energy, education, commerce, and very soon, hopefully, in genetics as well. Yes, and I'm here because I'm the creator of Fable. I'm also a co-author of a book called Mastering FSharp by Pav, that I'm very happy to hear that it was useful for some of you. And my Twitter handle is Alfonso GC Núñez, okay? For some reason, somebody else had Alfonso Garcia-Caro already taken, so. Some months ago, I just published this tweet, and the winner, I offered 3 options for my talk, and the winner was talking about the new version of Fable, so that's what we'll be doing today. But also, very closely, was this thing about making millions from home with Fable tricks. I don't know if you'll be able to make millions, but at least I will tell you about some productivity tricks that are very good, that are basically the tools that are coming from the community, okay? So let's start. What's today's menu? As I say, we are going to first see what's Fable. In linguistics, we have something that is called comparative linguistics. So if you want to know what's about something, you just compare it with similar things, okay? And then we'll see what were the design goals for Fable and what have been its achievements. And also the lessons learned during the development. And finally, we'll have an overview of the Fable ecosystem. So, these are the projects we will be using to compare with Fable, because they have, in some way or another, they have influenced Fable. So we have TypeScript, Elm, and ReasonML. Disclaimer: inaccuracies ahead, because I'm not a user of Elm and ReasonML, but I hope that it'll be okay. Let's talk about TypeScript. So TypeScript is what I call an ad hoc language, which means that it's been a language that's been specifically created to compile to JavaScript. It's been created by Microsoft, and as we all know, Microsoft, they are just evil, okay? They're an evil company that's here to make our lives worse. And it's a superset of JavaScript. It's not a functional first language, but it's being designed to seamlessly interop with JavaScript. So basically, this mostly the main goal of TypeScript. And the contribution of this language to the big development community is mainly if you know TypeScript, they have these declaration files that allow you to interact with the JavaScript libraries as if they were typed. And they are really, really useful when developing. Elm, let's talk about Elm. It's another ad hoc language. It's being created by Ivan, and I don't dare to say the family name. It's a pure functional language. It's been designed to be easy to learn and use, And also very important, it has its own tools, so including a package manager. Okay, I think this is very impressive that a small community has managed to do all these things. It has safe interop with JavaScript with what they call the ports. And the contribution is the Elm architecture. It's something that is so good that we have just copied. I mean, we have taken inspiration from it in Fable. And let's go with ReasonML. ReasonML is not an ad hoc language, it's a dialect of Camel, so it's similar to FSharp in that sense. It's been created by Facebook. Facebook current status, I think, is Are We Evil Yet? And it's mostly a pure functional language because you can make some mutations also with ReasonML as well as you can do it with FSharp. It's designed to appeal to JavaScript developers and integrates with the JavaScript ecosystem. It has easy interop with JavaScript through bindings. You have to write the bindings, but it's not a safe interop like in Java. And the contributions is bringing functional programming to JavaScript developers. Let's finish with Fable. Fable is not a language. It's just an FSharp to JavaScript compiler. It's maintained by community. It means that I'm not being paid by Microsoft. I don't know if Philip is here, I can fix that. But if it can, I just had to try. And encourages immutability. You can do mutability and object-oriented programming, but we say that FSharp is mainly a pure functional programming language, but when needed, you can do some mutability as well. It integrates with both .NET and JavaScript tooling. And it has also easy interop with JavaScript with semi-automated bindings. We'll see about that later. And the contribution is mainly that I'm being invited to conference, which is something important, at least for me. Because I'm the Fable representative here today, I'll talk about Fable strong points. I think, as we have seen in other talks, one strong point is that you can use FSharp full stack on the server and on the client, with, now with the safe stack. Also, you can, it's compatible with FSharp editors because one of the important things of FSharp is that it's a language with very strong editor support. So you can use Ionite, you can use Visual Studio, you can use Rider. It has, I think this is something interesting compared with other projects. It has partial reflection support. So there are some interesting projects that are coming to the Fable ecosystem thanks to this. And you can do, as I said, you can do a translation of the TypeScript declaration files using TS to Fable. It's a problem because the type systems don't match exactly, so sometimes you need to do some manual tweaking. That's what I call semi-automatic. Something that I like from the Fable community is that it adopts the best partner tools, so you don't have to learn everything again every time. You can just use what it works, like the Elm architecture, for example. And also, a strong point is that it's community maintained, not by an evil company. But Fable weak points, also we have to acknowledge that there are weak points in Fable too. So let's talk about that. So the first point is that sometimes it can be too perfectionist. No, sorry, this is the one I have for job interview. Sorry, this is wrong one. Okay, let's try again. Fable weak points is community maintained. So it can be a strong point for some. It can be a weak point for others, because we are not a company, we are not a very big team. But yeah, I think it's how open source works. It requires knowledge, I get this a lot. It requires knowledge of both .NET and JavaScript ecosystem. So if you are coming from .NET, you have to learn a bit about the JavaScript ecosystem. If you are coming from JavaScript, you need to learn a bit about the .NET ecosystem. The reason for this is that we are a small team, so we cannot create all the tools by our own. But I think, yeah, you have to learn a bit. But I think we are in a sweet spot at the moment. It's working fine. There are some small differences with the .NET FSharp semantics. We are trying to port most of the semantics from FSharp, but we don't want to have big runtime overhead, so sometimes we have some trade-offs. We are not compatible with the full .NET BCL base class library. So for example, a project like Blazor will give you more compatibility with the APIs. And also the FSharp type system does not allow high-level functional patterns. This is not a complaint about Fable. This is something that I hear about FSharp. I don't really know which are these high-level functional patterns, because for me, I'm a very, very lightweight user of functional programming. I just have 4 concepts of functional programming. So It's first, immutability. We all know about that. Expressions versus statements. This is also very important. Unitypes that allow for better matching. And headaches. So all the rest for me is just type classes, lenses, and all these things. So for me, it's a bit difficult to get into my head. So you won't find any of these things in this talk, sorry. How can you pick one of these languages or tools? So if you want to stay very close to JavaScript, I think using TypeScript makes sense. If you want an easy to use, very designed and very focused language, I think Elm can be a good option. If you want a general purpose language that has easy JavaScript interop, I think here, ReasonML and Fable, they have similar proposals. In my personal opinion, it's not only the language, it's also the ecosystem that takes a lot of time to learn new libraries, new tools, new paradigms, patterns. So, of course, here we are in FSharp only conference. Most of you, I guess, you'll be coming from the .NET ecosystem. It makes sense to use Fable, but if you are coming from a no-KML ecosystem, maybe it makes more sense to try Reason. There are also other options, of course. We have WebSharper. I didn't talk about WebSharper, even if it also has a FSharp to JavaScript compiler, because it's a different approach. WebSharper is a full web framework. We have PureScript. You are more on the Haskell side, and you want to do these high-level abstractions. We have Scala.js, we have ClojureScript if you are more on the dynamic side, and of course we have JavaScript. You can do also functional programming in JavaScript. It's more difficult because the language won't help you, but it's also possible. But how can you decide among all these options? So the good thing is that most of these options, they have an online repo. Okay, and in the case of Fable, we have an online repo too. This means that you can try it out without installing anything, just opening the browser, and you have the repo. And thanks to the work of Encave and Maxime Angel, this year FSharp Community Heroes, we have a very, very good repo with a very good UI and very good performance. It's possible, the best online repo for a functional programming language. It compiles the full FSharp, not the full, but most of the FSharp compiler into a JavaScript compiler that can generate JavaScript in the browser. We are talking here, everything working in the browser, not server involved. Integrates with the Monaco editor, which is basically the online version of Visual Studio Code. It has live view, it has HTML and CSS editors, it has error and console outputs, it has statics. It also has advanced IDE features like auto-completion, error checking on the fly, tooltips, or go-to definition. So very quickly, to show you an example here, this was posted by Maxime this week, announcing the new version of the repo with some of the UI improvements. You can go very quickly, see a Sudoku sample, and everything is just running in the repo. Let's try it out live. So here is it. Fable.io, Rebel 2. And then you have the samples. You can just check hello everybody. It's a very simple Elm input. You have some more complicated stuff here, like a SVG clock, a calculator, a Sudoku, we just saw, Sudoku solver. You have to do MVC, okay? So here in less than 300 lines by Eugene, we have to do MVC that it's a full. It's a full to-do MVC application with filtering, change of state. And this is, as I said, is happening just in less than 3 lines of code. It's just using functions, no templates, no magic strings, no magic attributes, just types and functions. This is Elmis, okay? It's really, really easy to learn. And as I said, you just have here you can use, as I say, I'm clicking command now, so you can see the definition. You can just jump there. If you make a mistake, the compiler will tell you very quickly. You can just jump there, fix it. The compiler will give you options. Oops. So if I made a mistake here, the compiler will tell you probably the word you are looking for. And we also have auto-completion, okay? This, everything is happening in the browser is thanks to the Fable that is compiling the FSharp compiler. Okay, let's go back to our slides. So, oops, I need to take this. So let's talk about Fable 1 versus Fable 2 beta. What improvements are coming with the new version? So first, let's review the design guidelines for Fable 1. It was the main guideline was to output readable JavaScript. Our motto was JavaScript you can be proud of. For that, we decided to adopt the ECMAScript or modern JavaScript standards like classes, iterables, and modules. We wanted to keep, as I said, FSharp semantics, but also allow for some small platforms differences because we wanted to have minimum runtime overhead. And I think it worked fine. So I think most of you have told me that you have Fable 1 apps in production and are working, so this is good. But we had some problem because, as you can see in this code, this is very simple, just a very simple record with a member. We have a nested model here. We have a function that is called the nested member. But the generated code is quite big. We have reflection. We have the methods here to emulate the FSharp equality semantics. And we also have the nested module, which is a JavaScript object, which means that this will be in your bundle, in your generated bundle, even if you don't use it. So what we have done with Fable 2? Fable 2, first at the beginning, the idea was to compile records and unions as JavaScript objects and arrays. This is how ReasonML does, and we wanted to copy that. But at one point, we realized that it was not possible to keep all the FSharp semantics with that. So we rejected that, but still, we are trying to play very well with JavaScript optimization tools like 3-second and minification. Okay, as I said, we are trying to use already existing tools. We are not doing everything by ourselves. And we compile, now we compile non-abstract type members as mangle functions, which means, we'll see the example right now. We flatten models, and we generate reflection info only if needed. So the same code, as you can see, it's generating much less JavaScript code. Oops. Do I have, okay, here. So you can see this is the type. This is the method. It's an external function. This means that if we are not using this, the 3-second will be able to take this out from our bundle. Or if we are using it, the name will be minified. It means that it will be generated much less code. And also it's very important for the JavaScript engines because you know that JavaScript is a dynamic language. The JavaScript runtimes need to check if the method is really in the object prototype, but here it's much easier for the JavaScript engines to make static dispatching. Now, as you can see here, the private model, we have this, there is no model object anymore. We just have it flattened in the big file module. It means that also it will play well with 3-second and minification. And here another example, we have the two types, a record and a union. The semantics are coming from here, so we don't have to repeat them for every type. And here, because we are calling type of foo, it means that we need the information of this type of runtime. Only here, in this case, the Fable compiler is going to generate the reflection info needed, but only if we are using it. So Fable 2 development, how was it? It was almost a full rewrite. We have made some work to improve the semantics, so the Fable ST. We fixed, just by doing these two things, we fixed many Fable 1 bugs. It was very funny because when we released the new repo, people were reporting some bugs from Fable 1. I would just say, okay, please try with the new repo. And it was fixed. So, okay, it's so close, just by cleaning everything. We had improvements in Fable 1, performance tricks like type arrays and carrying, very important, until calls. And the tooling, we didn't make big changes because we didn't want people to have to update everything. But we have tried to make some same defaults. So Fable 1, we had very simple. We had the FSharp AST. AST means abstract syntax tree, sorry, which is basically what you get after parsing the code in the text form. We had a step that was converting the FSharp AST to a Fable-specific AST, and then this will be converted to a Fable. Fable, if you know, it's a JavaScript tool to also compile JavaScript, modern JavaScript to all JavaScript. So we are using that to generate the actual JavaScript code. Fable 2 is very similar. We have the FSharp AST, we have the Fable AST, but now we have an extra phase, that is an optimization phase, that is taking the Fable AST and is applying all the optimizations we want, that on current, lambda beta reduction, leta, binding beta reduction as well. We are applying that, and this is much better because before some of these optimizations were in this step, and they were like patches, and it was very difficult to isolate them and check what was working and what was not. And finally, we just put in the JavaScript. So you can see, for example, here the oncurring. Oncurring means that, as you know, in FSharp, lambdas, the arguments are carried. It means that you can apply them one by one. So in JavaScript, we have to implement them as nested functions, but this is not always desirable. First, because it's less performant in JavaScript, and also because it makes it more difficult to interact with the JavaScript libraries. So we wanted to have this oncurring optimization. That means that we will be just putting normal arguments when possible. But in Fable 1, because this was implemented as a series of patches, it was at the end we had to use this type which is called carry lambda, which basically is a function that is checking at runtime the number of arguments applied, and then applying the arguments, the proper arguments. It's working more or less, but there are many edge cases that are not working. And also, as you can see, we have, this is some code for parsing tests, some combinators, and this was generating a lot of this carry lambda, which means that, for example here, which means that the performance is going to be worse, because this has to be, is adding more checks at runtime. But with Fable 2, if you see here, you have any of these carry lambdas. And this is in part thanks to the fact that we have moved this optimization to its own path, and it was much easier to isolate, test it, and check what was working. So Fable 2 beta achievements. So we have around 30–40% bundle size reduction. Leandro just told me yesterday you had 3 times smaller, wow, which is pretty impressive. For example, the Fulma demo, it's around 20,000 lines of FSharp. This includes the packages, not the demo only, but in Fable we have to compile all the source code. And it's less than 40 kilobytes gzipped, okay, with minified code. And we also had performance improvements. The repo, the new version of the repo is around 2 times faster than the previous version. We also had some reports about applications being more than 3 times faster. And also very important is the version number. Version number in Fable 2 is 2 times the version number in Fable 1. So this guarantees that it's 1 better, okay? So again, here you can see some benchmarks. So basically this was the time it was taken in Fable, with Fable 1, and this less than a half. The Fable, this is the FSharp compiler service time. The Fable time, it doesn't decrease so much because now we have this extra step. It means that it's doing more work. So basically one thing for the other. So it means that we still have, it's faster, but at the same time it's doing more work. So this is Fable 2 beta. Or it isn't beta. No, it's Fable 2 stable, okay? Fable 2 has been released today, and you can just download it and have it now. I always have this just in case, but I am very happy that I didn't have to use it. Okay, so Fable 2, lessons learned. Was a rewrite necessary? What do you think? Was a rewrite necessary? Yes. The answer is always yes. I can see there are no managers in the room because the answers always are right. It's there's any problem, you always are right. Just the answer to everything. It's the only reason we have static types, right? Everybody is saying that, oh, I have static types, I can refactor everything. Oh my God, just get it right the first time as the JavaScript guys are doing. But yes, a rewrite was necessary. But a rewrite always takes longer than you think, always. So please take this into account because it's always longer. Type helps when you are making a rewrite, but unit tests help too. Because sometimes there is a silly debate saying that if we have static types, we don't need unit tests. No, it's not true. Unit tests help a lot too. And the 80-20% rules applies too. It's very easy to pass 80% of the tests that you have in your unit test, but then it's very difficult to pass the final test. And it usually happens that you have your very clean code base now after the refactoring, but then you start adding some patches, and then at the end you end up with the same mess that you had before. So you have to be careful with that. This is not anything new. This is what Scott Flassen is telling us all the time, that you should model what you need. Don't rely on internal implementation details. This is something that happened a lot with Fable 1, with the anchoring functions, for example, with some of the option representation, because we knew that we were going to represent this in a certain way in JavaScript, but this was a problem, because if we change that, then everything breaks. So just model. Now in the Fable AST, we just added some things that we need, like the options, like the list, like the arrays, some things that are important for us. And then we can just change the representation if needed, because this only happens at the very last step. Don't do too much at once, as we said. Don't try to optimize everything in the same step. Even if it's more work, it will be much better to isolate steps, because then you can just cut off some space. You can test things much easier. And this is much better. This is something I like very much of the Elmis architecture, because it's so simple and everything is in its own place, right? So you have the model, you have the update function, you have the view function, and everything belongs to one place. And in the update function, because you are using pattern matching and you're using messages, you have everything just, every case in the pattern matching becomes its own function. So it's also very important. We have the functions here, which is this is a functional programming language, right? FSharp. So this is a pure function. It's very good because we have our input, we have our output, and we are not having any side effects. We are not having any mutability outside of the function. This is cool. This is what we should be aiming for. But there is always something, and maybe if you see here, it's knowledge, okay? So within the function, we always need knowledge about the outside world. And I don't know if it will be ever possible for a language to be able to typify this also in the type system. But for now, just keep in mind that we always need knowledge from the outside. You need knowledge about the language, of course, about the platform we are compiling to, about the application, about the dependencies. And this is something that you should be very careful, because this also happened with Fable 1, that if something else changes somewhere else, the compiler won't tell us, and things will break. So that's why semantics is very important, and I'm always insisting on this. Semantics. Try to minimize the outside knowledge that is needed from within the function. It's not always possible. I'm saying that we should try to minimize, okay? And the knowledge we need should be carried into the function. How can we carry the knowledge from the side word to the function? So one of the obvious answers is using the arguments, using arguments types modeling. So for example, if we have a string, it's very different if we have a type that is called non-empty string, like dependent types, like Jack Fox has been working on. So types that give you more information about the semantics of the model. Also the names are very important. This a common complaint about functional programmers that we just use X, Y, F, things like this. So sometimes it pays off to use a name even if it implies more typing. Coupling when needed. This is something that happened with Fable 1 because we didn't want to have any coupling with the Fable ST and the FSharp compiler service types. But this means that we were losing information on the way. And in Fable 2, we are having the coupling again. I think this is improving because we can keep all the information coming from the FSharp types into the Fable transformation phase. Add semantics to external APIs when they lack it. So if you're using an API that is lacking some semantics, you should write a layer to give the semantics. So for example, this happens a lot with FSharp compiler service because they have there are some weirdness tests, and then we try to put a layer where we have everything is a bit clear, at least for Fable purposes. Think of the regular expression. This happens to everybody when they access the groups. The first group 0, is always the full match. So this is a common mistake for everybody. So you can just write a method that eliminates this first group, for example. And you can be sure that the groups in the regular expression are the only thing that you are matching in brackets. Proximity. This is also very interesting that it's sometimes the knowledge, even if it's not close to the function, if it's not within the function, if it's close enough, this is also a good thing. These are important things in open source, but I guess that also for your projects as well, because many times a new developer is not going to check the whole code base. It's just going to go directly to the place that they need to fix, and they need to have most of the information right away, okay? So an example from Thought.json, that is becoming the standard JSON serialization library for Fable 2. This was the first version. It was inspired by Elm. So it means that you have a type, you have the constructor, and then here you have functions that access the field names in the JSON. But there is a problem, because here is easy. You can see there is we have two fields with the same integer, and it becomes quite easy here to mess up the names, especially if you have a bigger model, okay? So with Thought.json 2, now you have this, how do you call it? The object builder, I think, that is accessing directly. And now it's in the same line, okay? So we have the ID, and we have the ID, we have the name, email. So it's still these strings. It means that the compiler won't check this for us. But it's easier for the programmer to see that if there is a mistake, if we type name here, so it's easier for the programmer to check that there is an error, and this case should be ID. So let's talk about how to collaborate in an open source project. What does it look like? You're looking at this? No, sorry. Please look at this, okay? This is Japanese. It means Aikido. Maybe you know Aikido. It's Aikido, these three kanjis. So it's Do means way, Ki, energy, and I is to meet or to feed, okay? So Aikido, if you learn a bit about Aikido, is the way to meet the energies. They tell you if your opponent is pushing, you pull. If they are pulling, you push, right? So you have to meet the energies of the other people. I think this is very important in open source. When you are collaborating with awesome open source contributors, just keep in mind, in open source, but also in our projects as well, I think in open source it's very important because you want to keep these people contributing, but also this is something that is easy to forget in our day job because we are seeing these people every day. But I think it's important to try to have a good atmosphere in our work and keep people happy about contributing to our project. even if they are getting paid for that. So each contributor brings a new energy. You shouldn't let it go. Even if it means that this energy is going to change a bit the project from what you were thinking at the beginning. So you have to let new contributors drive the project. This is important because as they spend more time and effort in the project, they are also going to become maintainers of the project. So it's the right to be able also to take decisions on the project. But in some cases, in very few rare cases, some users are consuming too much of your own energy. In this case, I think it's okay to let it go. I see no point in getting stuck in endless discussions in GitHub issues. If something you don't like, this open source, we are doing this all of us just for fun. So just let it go. Don't worry too much. But even like that, you always have to keep in mind the goal of the project, right? It doesn't mean, although I'm telling you that you should try to take the energy from the people, you should try to move, to be flexible enough, but at the same time, you should try to think always in your goal. So how can we reconcile that? We have a goal in mind, but also we want to be flexible. This means that we want to walk with the flow, but we want to be the flow as well. Okay, this is the Bruce Lee advice, right? So be water, my friend. So if we are a river, the river has its way, but it can also is flexible enough to go around a rock. For example, the tree wants to go up, but it also can bend with the wind, right? Wow, this is very deep philosophy here. I should row a bear. Okay. So let's finish with Fable ecosystem. Because Fable itself is dumb. It's just a compiler. It's just taking FSharp code. It's just generating JavaScript code. This is doing nothing. It's the tools contributed by the community contributors that are making this a really enjoyable development experience. Okay. So first we have awesome Fable. This is the first point that you should check if you want to know about the tools contributed by the community. This is maintained by Kunjan Dalal, so thank you very much for your work. And also Kunjan is publishing many useful posts about the Fable and Elmi, so you should follow him on Twitter. Also the safe stack, of course, we have talking about that in several talks. This is a really mouthful to define the project's an end-to-end functional first stack for cloud-ready web development that emphasizes type-safe programming. I think they're missing some blockchain somewhere in here in this sentence. But a good thing about safe stack is that everything is it's open source and everything is pluggable. We have Saturn, we have Azure, we have Fable, we have Elmis, but you can just modify anything, as Darren told us that the metric is doing. And another very good thing is that even if it's an open source project, you have two companies right now, Lambda Factory and Compositional IT, that are providing commercial support for this stack. Okay. If you are interested in Safe Stack, I recommend very highly to check this talk from FSharp Exchange this year. You have to go to the FSharp Exchange site by Skills Matter. The code is called Save Apps with FSharp Web Stack. It's made by Tomasz Chemowski from Poland. And he's really good at live coding, so you can see in the talk that in 45 minutes, he's using all the tools available in the Save Stack to create a full application and deploying it to Azure in just 45 minutes while talking, which I found really, really incredible. And of course, Elmis, everybody's talking about Elmis. Everybody loves Elmis. Everybody loves Eugene contribution. So please, thanks everybody him for that. And Elmis, as we say, it's just the model view update architecture for Fable. Not only Fable, now we have this fabulous project that is also bringing Elmis to Xamarin projects. And you have this site, it's very good, it has very good documentation. It's not a lot of documentation, so it's very easy to read. But I want to, I'm not going to talk about Elmis, I'm just going to talk very quickly about some of the resistance that I found in people that they have some reluctance to embrace Elmis. And myself, I have some of these feelings at the beginning. But to embrace the Elmis, I think first you need to keep in mind that it's actually performant to re-render the whole view every time. This is something that many people, myself included, feels like a waste. Every time that your model changes, you have to re-render everything. Okay, don't worry, because there is a virtual DOM that is going to check the actual diffing, so there will be no bottlenecks in our application. Only you have to use lazy views where appropriate. Just check the documentation for that, but it's not very difficult. We also have, if you are more interested in performance, you can check. Just look for Fable React performance, and you should get this blog post. Fable React you can be proud of. And these are very nice tips about making your Fable React and Elmish apps more performant. Okay, yes. And there's no trick. I think one of the things that happen to people, and also, again, myself included, is that we are so used to very, very complicated architectures that when we see Almis and it's so simple, it's just model view update, we cannot believe it. It's like, there must be a trick somewhere. This cannot be so simple. We have to do some work around something. No, it's very simple. There are some more things. So you have asynchronous commands. Sometimes we have external messages. You can check it in the documentation. But the core is really, really simple. You have only the model, the view, and the update. That's all. This is something that I believe that something it's common to Mocker, the MVVM pattern. Do you remember that? If you had done some UPF development. I actually like this architecture, the model, because of the VM, right? The view model idea. That you have your model, usually in these applications, was something that was reflecting what you had in a database. And then the view model was something that was reflecting more closely what you had in the view. I think this is something important for Elmis apps as well, because in Elmis apps, the temptation can be to just use the model the same thing we are sending in JSON form to the server, but this doesn't work every time, especially with validation. Validation is very important in Elmis because we shouldn't include any logic actually in the view, just go to render a view. So then it means that we have to put everything like validation or things that we need in the model itself. So I think this idea of having something that is not exactly the model that you will exchange with the server, that is something that is between this model and the view. So I think it's a good idea to keep in mind. The extra typing, the models, and the messages will save you later. There's also a common complaint that you have to type a lot, you have to create a message for everything. And this seems like a too much boilerplate, but it will save you later when you have to change something. The compiler will tell you every word that you need to change. But even like this, you can use React stateful components. If you know a bit of React, you can have the components can also have a state. It makes sense sometimes to use them, but please be careful. And if Eugene is not listening, please use a program with React unoptimized because reasons. But we haven't convinced him to make it the default, but I personally recommend to use this one if you don't have very, very frequent messages to your update loop. Okay, but we just say that it is one of the things that I like from the Fable community, that we are trying to bring in things that work together. We have the Elm architecture, and we have also React. React is being used by thousands of developers, and there are hundreds of React components available. So I think this is very good that we made work together. So for example, here you have Leaflet. If you know of that, it's a tool for displaying maps in your web application. Here it's very simple to just create some bindings, and then you can see that we are using the full power of FSharp with type checking, auto completion, editor support to create the component that with very few effort we can just put in our web page, because this is something that somebody else already contributed. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. We can just use work that is there for us. Fable reaction. Still, I think that there are some places that it could be useful to have something that is outside of the Elmis loop, and I have very high hopes for this project that is bringing reactive X to Fable Elmis. You remember some 3-4 years ago, we all had to be reactive, and then there was no reactive anymore. Okay, it was pretty crazy. I think it was because they tried to make a full architectures with RX that they didn't work very well. I think it's not a good fit. Elmis is a better fit, but it makes sometimes some sense to use it. For example, for dragging and dropping, when you need things like filtering the event stream, or you need debouncing, things like this, you can just use Fable reaction in your Elmis application, and it's a really, really simple code, okay? So you just take the mouse move, you have here a computation expression, and just take the event until mouse up is happening. Okay, Maxime, of course, just go to his GitHub profile, because he has so many useful tools and libraries that is really worth to check his GitHub profile. But if I have to say someone, it's Fulma. Maybe some of you know about that. It's just making it possible to use Bulma, which is a CS framework similar to Bootstrap, using it just with also with auto-completion and type checking. And it makes much more type safe and a better experience. And what I love is that he has really good documentation, so you can just go to the Fulma page and you can have anything here with examples, with code that you can copy and use right in your application. This is an example. This is an example from my own code. I'm using here a wrapper for a form that uses optional arguments to just create in real time. As you see, we can use the label or the placeholder. We can use icons. We can set if something is a password or not. We have validation as well. And as you can see here, and it's very easy to change something to be a number, for example. Another example here, using reflection, we have a union type, and the union type has just 2 cases, and these are being reflected automatically in the drop-down. If we add a new one, this is in the drop-down. This is happening everything with a hot reloading, and then we can have, for example, some text processing for just replacing the underscore with the spaces, for example. Another very useful tool from Maxime is the HTML to Elmis. Sometimes you have seen that we have this system to create the views directly with FSharp code, but sometimes you have some examples from the web that are in HTML and you want to use them. So you can use this tool to just paste the code here, and right away, this is online, you can have the FSharp code that you can put directly in your application. But not only Fulma, we have Fable Ant Design by Bichon, also from France. We have Fable Material UI. Material UI, you know, this the way preferred by Google and Android to create apps, contributed by Michael from the Czech Republic. We'll soon have Fabulosa from Leandro. So soon I'll be able to put also another slide here. And let's finish with a couple of other projects, very interesting. So we have Fable Remoting from Zaid Aya, who also has useful tools for Elmis applications. And this one is to create automatically a REST API using reflection, both in the front end and the back end, to communicate with the server and the client. Okay, this is very useful for small applications that you don't want to spend much time designing the REST API. We also have Elmis Bridge. This contributed by Diego Esmerio from Brazil. I like to say the names of where the contributors are from, because I think it's incredible that we are able to collaborate from so many places so far apart, and it's really something that I really like. And this project is to propagate the Elmish state between the server and the client, also automatically using reflection, using WebSockets. It's working really well. TS2 Fable, we talk about that. It's a tool to translate JavaScript declarations. I created the first version. It was very simple, but then Cameron Taggart from here, from the US, and Hong Hei, I guess this is not his real face, but he's from China. And they've done really incredible work. And for example, here there was a tweet recently how to create a Google Analytics bindings for Fable compiler in 10 seconds. So you can see here, you just go to the repository, take the TypeScript bindings, you copy them in raw form, then you paste them. We have something similar to the HTML to Fable tool that we just saw. It's already done, okay? It's there. As I said, it's not working for, if you have a very complicated binding, you may get some errors, so sometimes you need some manual checking, but it's usually good enough. If you don't have this TS2 Fable, I think Darren had a very similar example. You can write the binding yourself. So here, we are just importing some JavaScript library. We are just importing a single function, and we just want to type the options. So they are typed here. Just use them, okay? You don't have to do anything else. And that's all from my side, so thanks a lot. If you happen to be in Europe next month, in the 26th, we are having FableConf. If you want to have more Fable and also more safe and more Azure, with FSharp, we have a discount code here. It's Open FSharp FableConf. So please check it out, and I hope to see some of you there. Thank you. I think we don't have time for questions, right?